Live NFL trivia every Tuesday night on Twitch at 9 p.m. Eastern. Come show off your football knowledge and have a chance to win cash prizes. Check the link in the description to find out more. And now, on with our feature presentation. Imagine this. Your team is playing a home game in the postseason, and you have the opportunity to go for free. You don't have to pay a cent. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to win a lottery or win a contest or anything along those lines. All you have to do is show up and claim the ticket, and you get to go watch your team in the postseason. Well, for 3,500 Cowboys fans in 1983, that's exactly what happened. Because during the 1983 wildcard round, 3,500 Cowboy fans had the opportunity to watch their team play for free. And this is the story behind that. First, we need some context as to how we even got to this point. In 1983, the Cowboys were looking at having another successful season. They had finished with a winning record in every year since 1966, and had made it to the postseason in each of the past 8 years. Dallas had momentum on their side after a solid 1982 campaign, where they made it all the way to the NFC Championship for the third straight year, before losing to Washington. And in 1983, to say that they were in a phenomenal spot would be an understatement. Through 14 weeks, Dallas had 12 wins, which was tied for the most in the NFL. They had scored 452 points, which was the second most in the NFL. They had a point differential of 165, which was the second best in the NFL. Dallas had easily wrapped up another playoff spot, and had 4 more wins than the next best team in the NFC. That's the good news. The bad news was that Washington was in their division, and was better in every way. Washington had 12 wins, 479 points, and a point differential of 179. All 3 of these totals were the best in football. I mentioned it in my defense of their Rockets screenplay at Super Bowl 18 later that year, which you can check out in the upper right corner, but the 1983 Washington team might have been one of the greatest teams of all time, at least from a regular season standpoint. Even though Dallas would have locked up the division in any other division in the NFC, because they were in the NFC East, they had to fight for their lives to get a bye. Dallas had a chance to clinch the division in Week 15. Dallas won their first game of the season against Washington by a final score of 31-30, and we're now facing Washington again, only this time it was at Texas Stadium. A win and Dallas clinches the NFC East and gets home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Unfortunately for the Cowboys, that's not quite what happened, as they lost 31-10. After Washington took care of business against the New York Giants on Saturday of the final week to improve to 14-2, Dallas had to settle for a wild card. The good news was that they'd be hosting the game. The bad news? They were having a hard time selling tickets. Before going into why this is so important, I have a few theories in mind as to why there was some difficulty. The first one is obvious. The wildcard game was being scheduled for December 26th, which was a Monday at 1:30 in the afternoon Central Time. No, I did not misspeak, a Monday at 1:30 in the afternoon. It seemed absurd that the NFL would put a game so early on a weekday that wasn't even a holiday, let alone a playoff game. Why did they do it, you may ask? Well, with the way the schedule worked, Christmas was going to fall on a Sunday. The 2 games in the wildcard round always took place on different days, so you'd have one game on a Saturday and one on a Sunday. While the AFC wildcard game was held on Christmas Eve between the Seattle Seahawks and the Denver Broncos, the league decided not to put the NFC wildcard game on a Sunday and interfere with Christmas. I've made multiple videos about why the NFL tried to avoid Christmas back then, both of which you can check out in the description and in the upper right corner. Let's just say that in 1971, when the league put 2 playoff games on Christmas Day, there was outrage, with attendance being down, significant fan backlash, and even lawmakers trying to pass legislation banning the NFL from ever doing this again. There was no way that the NFL was going to play another playoff game on Christmas after that. Instead of doing what seemed to be the logical thing and play the wildcard games on Christmas Eve, with one being at 12:30 and the other being at 4 o'clock, or instead of playing this game on a Monday night in an attractive time slot that has been a proven winner because of Monday Night Football, the NFL just decided to play this game on a Monday at 2:30 Eastern. I know I'm going a bit off track here, but by God, that's one of the stupidest business decisions the NFL ever made, and I have no idea why they thought this would be a good idea. Outside of the obvious time problem, there are some other reasons why the Cowboys may have had some trouble selling tickets to this game. One of them could be playoff fatigue to an extent. Playoff tickets are hot commodities when they are rare occurrences. In the case of the Cowboys, though, this wasn't the case. They were a victim of their own success. The Cowboys had hosted a playoff game every year since 1976, and had hosted 9 playoff games in that stretch. this wasn't a unique occasion. As spokesperson Greg Aiello said, a playoff game in Texas Stadium is not unusual. In some cities, it would be a big event, but here it's no big deal. We've been in more playoff games than any team in NFL history. Especially due to the incredibly inconvenient nature of the game from a timing standpoint, it made some sense why Cowboy fans weren't filling the seats. On top of that, you had awful weather. In the days leading up to the game, the temperature dipped to 14 degrees. The weather conditions were equivalent to what New York was experiencing, which is amazing to think about, seeing as the Cowboys played in Texas. In fact, the conditions were so bad that the Cowboys left town and practiced in Houston at the indoor climate-controlled Astrodome. When the weather is so bad that a team is leaving town just to get a practice in, it's a really bad sign. And even though the Cowboys were 12-4 and tied the franchise record for wins in a season, the team was sliding at the worst possible time. Why spend money and support a team in the postseason that is playing like garbage and is likely going to get blown out badly? They lost to Washington 31-10 and San Francisco 42-17. In their final two games entering the postseason, Dallas got outscored 73-27. Even Tony Dorsett said that the way the Cowboys ended the season was an embarrassment. And one Cowboys member, who stayed anonymous, said that there was some trouble. He said maybe the players don't want to pay the price. They may be spoiled by success. They may be too used to winning on talent. They may think they're getting ready for a game when in reality they are not up to the physical intensity of the other team. In short, it was an absolutely horrible combination of factors leading up to this playoff game against the Rams. Because of all of this, the game was in danger of not selling out. Today, this is no big deal, but back in 1983, this was huge. If a game did not sell out before the 72-hour deadline, then it would get blacked out in the local market, and nobody would be able to see it. Even after the Cowboys got a 24-hour extension from the NFL to try and lift the blackout, there were 7,000 unsold tickets. Aiello said that it was a long shot that the game would be sold out. It was looking like there was going to be a blacked out playoff game, and that the only people in Dallas who would be able to watch the game would be the ones at the stadium. Then a Christmas miracle happened. On Christmas Eve, before the 1:30 deadline, the blackout was lifted. W.O. Bankston, who owned a car dealership, and Lester Melnick, who owned a women's specialty store, bought the remaining 3,500 tickets. Just like that, fans would be able to watch their team play. That left a problem for Bankston and Melnick, though. They had 3,500 tickets, and obviously, they don't need that many. So what did they decide to do? They just decided to give them away. 5 hours before the game, any fan who showed up to one of Melnick's stores or to Bankston's Lincoln Mercury dealership were to get tickets to the game. No hoops to jump through, no catch. If you showed up and claimed the tickets, they were yours, and you were getting free tickets to a playoff game. How many of those tickets were claimed, I'm not entirely sure, but there was still a fair number of empty seats in Texas Stadium that day. And for the Cowboy fans who did wind up braving the cold temperatures and harsh conditions to watch their team play, they got to see a 24-17 loss where their team turned the ball over 4 times. This was the last time that Dallas hosted a playoff game until 1992, when the Eagles came to town in the NFC divisional round. The average playoff ticket costs 3 figures. Heck, there are some playoff games that aren't even the Super Bowl where the average ticket costs 4 figures. But back in 1983, if you wanted to see your team in the postseason, you could do it for free. Had the Cowboys won the game, for local Cowboy fans, it would have been the greatest deal of all time. Be sure to like this video, ring the notification bell, subscribe down below if you haven't already, as it helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out Twitch every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern for your chance to play NFL trivia and win cash prizes. Link in the description below. If you want to see videos like this condensed down to 60 seconds, then follow me on TikTok at JaroGator9 and subscribe to 60-Second NFL History on YouTube. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters throughout the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. See how you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.